The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was the largest room had ever seen. It stretched so far that the walls disappeared into darkness. Thousands of alien representatives sat in floating chairs that circled around a central platform. The air smelled strange, like metal and flowers mixed together. Lights of different colors floated above each section, marking the territories of different species. Stood alone on the central platform. He was a tall man with gray hair and calm eyes. He wore the simple black uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps. A small pin on his chest showed the blue and green of his home planet. He had been Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Council for 15 years. In all that time, he had never been summoned like this. The council chamber was usually filled with noise. Aliens argued, made deals, and shouted across the vast space. Today, it was silent. Every eye, sensor, and optical device was focused on the small human standing in the center. Supreme Commander floated down from the highest platform. He was tall and thin, with skin like polished stone. His eyes were completely black, and they reflected no light. He belonged to the oldest and most powerful species in the galaxy. They had ruled the council for 10,000 years. "Human ambassador," said. His voice echoed through the chamber. "You have been called here to receive the judgment of the Galactic Council." Did not move. He kept his hands clasped behind his back. "I was not aware that humanity was on trial," he said. His voice was steady. A wave of whispers spread through the chamber. No one spoke to the Supreme Commander like that. His black eyes narrowed. "Your species has been part of this council for only 200 years, said. "In that time, you have spread across 12 systems. You have built colonies on 47 worlds. You have grown your fleet to over 3,000 vessels." "These are not crimes," replied. "We have followed every law of the council." Raised one long finger. "The council has determined that humanity's growth is a threat to galactic stability. Your species breeds too fast. You consume too many resources. You take what others need." Felt his heart beat faster, but his face showed nothing. He had trained for decades to control his emotions. "What does the council propose?" he asked. "It is not a proposal," said. "It is a command." A holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed Earth's solar system, the sun, the 8 planets, and the countless stations that orbited them. Red lines began to appear around the system, marking boundaries. "Humanity will return to its home system," announced. "You will abandon all colonies. You will reduce your fleet to 100 vessels. You will accept permanent monitoring of your population growth." The chamber remained silent, stared at the display. They were asking humanity to give up everything they had built. 2 centuries of work, sacrifice, and dreams, all of it to be erased. "And if we refuse?" asked. Smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. "The combined fleets of the council number over 50,000 warships. Your 3,000 vessels would be destroyed in a matter of hours. Your colonies would be seized. Your people would be relocated by force." He paused and leaned closer to, or worse. The threat hung in the air like poison. Understood perfectly. The council could destroy humanity if they wanted to. They had done it before to other species. They believed that removing threats early was better than fighting wars later. "You have 1 solar day to accept these terms," said. "After that, we will assume that humanity has chosen war." Looked up at the thousands of faces watching him. Some looked pleased. Others looked uncomfortable. A few species had always feared humans. They saw how fast humanity grew, how quickly they learned, how fiercely they competed. Now those fears had become official policy. "I request 3 days, said. His eyes widened slightly. 3 days, you dare to negotiate?" "I am not negotiating," said calmly. "Earth is far from here. I need time to consult with my government. 3 days is the minimum required for proper communication." This was a lie. Earth's quantum communication network could send messages instantly across any distance, but did not know this. The council believed that humans still used slow, light-speed communication like most species. Considered the request. Finally, he nodded. 3 days, but understand this, human. There will be no extensions. There will be no mercy. When the time ends, you will submit or you will burn. Bowed slightly. I understand completely. He turned and walked off the platform. His footsteps echoed in the silent chamber. He could feel thousands of eyes following him. He kept his pace steady. He did not look back. When he reached the exit, a junior diplomat was waiting for him. Her name was, and she was one of the youngest members of his team. Her face was pale with worry. "Ambassador, what happened?" she whispered. Kept walking. He spoke quietly, knowing that the council had listening devices everywhere. "Contact Admiral. Tell her to begin Operation Sunrise. Tell her we have 72 hours." His eyes went wide. Operation Sunrise, but that means... "I know what it means," said. He finally allowed himself a small smile. "The council thinks they can scare us into submission. They think we are weak because we have been peaceful. They think we have no secrets." He stopped at the door of their ship. He looked back at the massive council building, with its towers and lights and ancient power. "They have made a terrible mistake," he said. "Humanity has been preparing for this day since we first met the stars. We knew that someday someone would try to put us in a cage. We knew that peace would not last forever." Swallowed hard. "Are we going to war?" Shook his head. "No, we are going to show them why they should never have threatened us. War requires two sides fighting. What comes next will not be a fight, it will be a lesson." He entered the ship. The engines hummed to life. In 3 days, the Galactic Council would learn that humans were not the weak, young species they believed them to be. They would learn that humanity had been watching, waiting, and building in the shadows. And they would learn that when humans were pushed, they did not fall. They pushed back. Admiral stood on the bridge of the battleship Iron Will. She was a small woman with short black hair and eyes that seemed to look through everything. She had served in the fleet for 40 years. She had fought pirates, rescued colonies from disasters, and explored the darkest corners of space. But she had never received an order like this one. The message from Ambassador was short: Operation Sunrise, 72 hours. Read it 3 times to make sure she understood. Then she began to smile. It was a hard smile, the kind that soldiers wear before a battle. "Lieutenant," she called out. A young officer hurried to her side. "Yes, Admiral." "Send the signal to all hidden stations. Authorization code, Sunrise, tell them to wake up." His face went pale. He had heard rumors about Operation Sunrise. Every officer had. But most people thought it was just a story, a legend passed down through generations of military service. "Admiral, is this real? Are we really doing this?" "The Council has given us 3 days to surrender everything we have built," said. "They think we will kneel. They think we are afraid." She turned to face the main. Stars stretched across the darkness like scattered diamonds. Somewhere out there, the Galactic Council was waiting for humanity to break. "They are about to find out how wrong they are," she said. "Send the signal." His hands shook as he typed the codes. A moment later, a pulse of energy shot out from the Iron Will. It traveled through quantum channels, reaching every corner of human space in an instant. And across the galaxy, humanity began to wake up. Captain Minu was sleeping in his quarters on Colony 7 when the alarm went off. He jumped out of bed and ran to the command center. His first officer, Sora, was already there. "What's happening?" Minu demanded. "We received the sunrise signal," Sora said. Her voice was tight with excitement. "It's real, Captain. After all these years, it's finally real." Minu stared at the screen. Hidden beneath Colony 7, in chambers that had been sealed for over a century, lights were turning on. Machines that had been silent since his grandfather's time were humming back to life. "Contact all colony leaders," Minu ordered. Tell them to begin emergency protocols. Get our people to safety and prepare for what comes next." "What about the Council's spies?" Sora asked. "They have agents on every colony." Minu smiled grimly. "By the time they figure out what's happening, it will be too late. The Council thinks they know everything about us. They have no idea." Deep beneath the surface of the colony, massive doors began to open. Ships that had been hidden for generations rose from their secret hangars. They were not the small transport vessels that the Council knew about. These were warships, fast, powerful, and built for only one purpose. In laboratories across human space, scientists received the sunrise signal. Doctor was working late in her research station on Mars when the message arrived. She was a quiet woman who had spent her life studying alien technology. Now, all her work would finally have meaning. "Begin activation of the defense network," she told her team. "Full power, no restrictions." Her assistant looked nervous. "The Council has forbidden any species from building planetary defense systems. If they find out." "The Council is about to threaten our extinction," said sharply. "I think we can stop worrying about their rules." She walked to a control panel and entered a long code. Deep beneath the surface of Mars, ancient machines began to stir. Humanity had discovered these systems decades ago, technology left behind by a species that had vanished long before the Council existed. They had kept it secret, studied it, and improved it. Now, across every human planet and station, similar systems were coming online. Defense shields that could stop any weapon, sensors that could see across entire star systems, weapons that the Council could not imagine. "The galaxy is about to change," said quietly. Back on the Iron Will, Admiral watched as reports flooded in from every corner of human space. Ships were launching from hidden bases. Soldiers were reporting for duty. Factories that had been disguised as mining operations were producing weapons at full speed. The Council believed that humanity had 3,000 ships. They were wrong. The real number was much higher. For 2 centuries, humans had been building in secret. They had learned to hide their strength because they knew that the galaxy was dangerous. They knew that someday they would need to fight. "Admiral, we have a problem." Turned to see Lieutenant looking worried. "What is it?" "One of our spies in the Council reports that Commander is suspicious. He thinks 3 days is too long. He may send scouts to watch our movements." Nodded slowly. This was expected. They were not stupid. They had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years because they were careful. "Let them send scouts," she said, "but make sure they only see what we want them to see." "What do you mean?" Pulled up a map of human space. "We will show them weakness. Move our visible fleet toward Earth. Make it look like we are retreating. Let them think we are preparing to surrender. And our hidden fleet will stay hidden until the right moment." Eyes were cold. They have made the same mistake that every bully makes. They believe that because they are strong, others must be weak. They believe that fear is the same as power. She stood up and addressed her entire bridge crew. "For 200 years, humanity has played the part of the quiet newcomer. We smiled and nodded and followed their rules. We let them believe that we were not a threat, and all that time we were preparing." She pointed at the star map. "In 3 days, Ambassador will return to the Council. He will not bring surrender documents. He will bring a message that will change the galaxy forever." A young officer raised her hand. "Admiral, what if they attack anyway? Their fleet is still larger than ours." Smiled. "Size is not everything. The Council has not fought a real war in 5,000 years. Their ships are old. Their tactics are older. They have forgotten what it means to face an enemy who will not give up." She walked to thee and stared at the stars. "Humanity learned to fight long before we reached space. We fought nature. We fought each other. We survived ice ages, plagues, and disasters that should have destroyed us. And every time we fell, we got back up." She turned back to her crew. The Council thinks they can scare us with threats. They think we will choose slavery over death. But they do not understand humans. We would rather die standing than live on our knees." The bridge was silent. Every officer stood. Every face showed determination instead of fear. "Prepare the fleet," ordered. "In 3 days, we teach the galaxy what humanity is made of." Across human space, millions of people were doing the same thing. Soldiers checked their weapons. Engineers tested their systems. Families hugged each other and promised to stay strong. The Galactic Council had tried to crush humanity with fear. They did not know that they had just united humanity in a way that nothing else could. And when humans stood together, nothing in the galaxy could stop them. 3 days passed like a heartbeat. Ambassador spent most of that time in meditation, preparing his mind for what was coming. He knew that the next few hours would decide the future of his species. There was no room for mistakes. His ship docked at the council station exactly on time. The same junior diplomat walked beside him through the long corridors. She looked different now. The fear in her eyes had been replaced by something else, pride. "Everything is ready," she whispered as they walked. "Admiral reports full operational status. All systems are online." Nodded slightly, "And our guests?" "Commander's fleet is in position. They are waiting for your signal." They reached the doors of the great chamber. The same guards who had escorted 3 days ago were waiting. They looked at him with confusion. Most species came to this room broken and afraid after receiving the Council's ultimatum, but walked like a man without worries. The doors opened. The massive chamber was even more crowded than before. Word had spread across the galaxy that something important was about to happen. Representatives from hundreds of species had come to watch humanity surrender. Supreme Commander sat on his floating throne, high above everyone else. His black eyes followed as the human walked to the central platform. The chamber fell silent. "Human Ambassador," said. His voice boomed through the room. "You have had 3 days to consider the Council's generous offer. What is humanity's response?" Stood perfectly still. He let the silence stretch until it became uncomfortable. Then he smiled. "Before I give our response, I would like to share something with the Council." His eyes narrowed. "This is not a negotiation. You will accept our terms or face destruction." "I understand," said calmly, "but I believe the Council deserves to make their decision with complete information. You have based your ultimatum on certain beliefs about humanity. I would like to correct some mistakes in your understanding." Whispers spread through the chamber. No one spoke to the Supreme Commander this way. The stone-like face showed the first signs of anger. "You dare to call the Council misinformed?" "I dare to show you the truth." Raised his hand. A small device in his palm began to glow. Suddenly, the holographic display in the center of the chamber changed. Instead of showing Earth's solar system, it showed something else entirely. At first, no one understood what they were seeing. The image showed empty space, just darkness and stars. Then, one by one, lights began to appear. Ships, thousands of them. They emerged from behind moons, rose from the surfaces of asteroids, and uncloaked from the darkness of space itself. They appeared everywhere, in systems that the Council thought were empty, near stations that the Council thought were undefended, in the shadows of places the Council had forgotten about. The chamber went completely silent. Stood up from his throne, his black eyes were wide with disbelief. "What is this?" "This is humanity's true fleet," said. His voice was calm and clear. "You believed we had 3,000 ships. The actual number is closer to 15,000. We have been building in secret for nearly 2 centuries. The holographic display changed again. Now it showed human space, but covered with red dots that represented military installations. There were hundreds of them, bases, stations, weapons platforms, and defense networks that the Council had never known about. "Your intelligence told you that we had no planetary defenses," continued. In fact, every human world is protected by systems that can stop any attack you might launch. Your spies saw what we wanted them to see, nothing more. His hands were shaking, whether from anger or fear could not tell. This is impossible. We have monitored humanity for 200 years. We would have known. You knew what we allowed you to know. His voice grew harder. The Council has always treated humanity as children. You thought we were too young, too weak, too foolish to be a real threat. So you stopped watching closely. You assumed that your superiority was natural and permanent. He stepped forward, and for the first time his voice showed emotion. That was your mistake. The display changed one more time. Now it showed the Council station itself, surrounded by empty space. Then, like ghosts appearing from nothing, ships began to uncloak. Human warships, hundreds of them. They had been there all along, invisible and silent, waiting. They now formed a ring around the Council station, their weapons pointed at the very heart of galactic power. Panic spread through the chamber. Representatives screamed and ran for the exits. Guards drew weapons but had no idea what to do. For the first time in 10,000 years, the Galactic Council was surrounded. Stood frozen on his platform. His black eyes moved from the display to and back again. His voice came out as a whisper. You would not dare attack the Council. Shook his head. You misunderstand, Supreme Commander. We are not here to attack anyone. We are here to send a message. He gestured at the ships surrounding the station. Commander leads that fleet. She could destroy this station in minutes. She could kill every council member and end your government today. But she will not do that because humanity does not want war. He paused and let his words sink in. We want respect. Said nothing. His face had gone pale gray, the equivalent of white. 3 days ago you gave us an ultimatum, said. You told us to abandon our homes, reduce our fleet, and accept permanent monitoring. You threatened to destroy us if we refused. He walked closer to his platform. Guards moved to stop him but waved them back. Now I will give you our response, said. We refuse. The word echoed through the chamber like thunder. We will not abandon our colonies. We will not reduce our fleet. We will not accept your monitoring. And we will not be bullied by anyone, not today, not ever. Found his voice. If you refuse, then you have chosen war. Laughed. It was not a mocking laugh, but a sad one. No, Supreme Commander, we have chosen freedom. There is a difference. He turned to address the entire chamber. Thousands of alien faces stared back at him, some afraid, some angry, some curious. Humanity came to the stars hopping to find friends. Instead, we found empires that treat younger species like property. We found councils that demand obedience instead of offering partnership. We found a galaxy ruled by fear. He spread his arms wide. We will not be part of that system. We will not kneel. We will not submit. But we also will not conquer. We do not want your worlds or your resources. We want something far more valuable. He looked directly at. We want the right to exist as equals. We want a seat at the table, not a place beneath it. We want to build a future where strength is measured by wisdom, not weapons. The chamber was silent. No one knew what to say. The balance of power had shifted in ways that no one had expected. An ambassador stood at the center of it all, waiting for the galaxy to decide what came next. The silence in the council chamber lasted for what felt like hours. Every being in the room was trying to understand what had just happened. The most powerful government in the galaxy had been surrounded by a species they considered children. The rules of the universe had changed in a single moment. Supreme Commander was the first to move. He slowly sat back down on his floating throne. His black eyes stared at with a mixture of hatred and something new, respect. You have made a grave error, human, said. His voice was quieter now, but still dangerous. Even if your fleet surrounds this station, the full might of the Council can still destroy your people. We have 50,000 ships spread across the galaxy. Your 15,000 cannot stop them all. Nodded, you are correct. In a full war, both sides would suffer terribly. Millions would die, worlds would burn, the galaxy would be for centuries. He paused. Is that what you want? Leaned forward. What I want is obedience. The Council has maintained peace for 10,000 years by ensuring that no single species becomes too powerful. Humanity threatens that balance. Peace through fear is not peace, replied. It is slavery with a prettier name. A new voice spoke up from the crowd. It belonged to Representative Bora, the ambassador from the species. There were small, peaceful beings who had been conquered by the Council 5,000 years ago. They had never forgotten their lost freedom. The human speaks truth, Bora said. Her voice was soft but carried across the chamber. Many of us have lived under the Council's shadow for too long. We follow rules we did not make. We pay taxes to fund wars we do not support. We watch our children grow up knowing they will never be truly free. His eyes snapped toward her. You dare speak against the Council, have they forgotten their place? We have forgotten nothing, Bora said. That is exactly the problem. More voices began to rise. Species that had been silent for centuries were suddenly finding their courage. They had watched humanity stand up to the Council, and something inside them had changed. If the young humans could resist, maybe they could too. Stood up again. His voice thundered through the chamber. Silence, all of you. The Council will not tolerate this rebellion. Then stop us. Everyone turned toward the source of the new voice. A holographic image had appeared next to. It showed a woman in military uniform standing on the bridge of a massive warship. She had sharp eyes and a face that showed no fear. Commander had joined the conversation. Supreme Commander said. Her tone was polite but firm. I command the fleet that currently surrounds this station. I have orders to protect Ambassador and to demonstrate humanity's resolve. I have no orders to attack, but I will defend myself if necessary. His face twisted with anger. You think your little fleet frightens us? I can summon reinforcements from 100 systems. You could, agreed. And while you wait for them to arrive, my ships will destroy this station and everyone in it, including you. The chamber went cold. Continued speaking as if she was discussing the weather. I do not want to do that. Ambassador has worked very hard to find a peaceful solution, but you should understand something about humans, Supreme Commander. When our people are threatened, we do not calculate odds. We do not weigh costs and benefits. We fight. She leaned closer to the camera. We fight until we win or until we die. There is no middle ground. There is no surrender. That is what makes us different from the species you have conquered before. Was breathing heavily. His stone-like skin had developed cracks, a sign of extreme stress in his species. For the first time in his long life, he faced an enemy he could not intimidate. What do you want? He finally asked. His voice was barely above a whisper. Stepped forward. This was the moment everything had been building toward. We want a new agreement between humanity and the Council, not as masters and servants, but as equals. He pulled out a small data device. I have prepared a list of terms. They are fair and reasonable. If the Council accepts them, Commander's fleet will withdraw. Our hidden fleet will return to their stations, and we will work together to build a better future for everyone. And if we refuse, then this conversation ends badly for all of us. His voice held no threat, only truth. War would destroy both sides, but humanity has already accepted that possibility. We decided long ago that freedom was worth any price. Took the data device. His long fingers trembled slightly as he activated it. The terms appeared on a holographic display for the entire chamber to see. First, humanity would be recognized as a sovereign power, with full voting rights on the Council. Second, all threats against human space would be withdrawn immediately. Third, the Council would end its policy of limiting the growth of younger species. Fourth, a new charter would be created, guaranteeing basic rights to all member species. Fifth, species that wished to leave the council would be allowed to do so peacefully. Murmurs spread through the chamber. These terms were revolutionary. If accepted, they would change the entire structure of galactic civilization. The old order, built on fear and control, would be replaced by something new. Read the terms 3 times. His face was unreadable. Finally, he looked up at. "You ask us to give up 10,000 years of tradition." "No," said. "We ask you to build something better. The old ways have failed. They created a galaxy where the strong crush the weak, where fear is called peace, where growth is treated as a crime. That system was always going to break eventually. We are simply the species that finally broke it." Representative Bora spoke again. "I support the human terms, that will stand with humanity." Another voice joined in, then another, and another. Species that had been silent were finally speaking up. The tide was turning. Looked around the chamber. He saw the faces of beings who had once feared him, now looking at him with defiance instead of obedience. He saw his allies avoiding his eyes. He saw the future slipping away from this control. He was smart enough to recognize when a battle was lost. "The Council will consider these terms," he said slowly. "We require time to discuss." Shook his head. "You gave us 3 days. We are giving you 3 hours. Commander's fleet will wait, but they will not wait forever." Stared at him with pure hatred. But behind the hatred there was something else. Understanding. He finally realized what kind of species humanity really was. They were not children. They were not weak. They were survivors, forged by millions of years of struggle, hardened by challenges that would have destroyed lesser beings. And they would never, ever give up. 3 hours, said quietly. "We will have an answer in 3 hours." Bowed slightly. "We will be waiting." He turned and walked toward the exit. The chamber remained silent except for the sound of his footsteps. Every eye followed him until he disappeared through the doors. Above the station, Commander's fleet maintained their position. Their weapons remained ready. Their crews stood at their stations. And across the galaxy, humanity held its breath, waiting to see if peace or war would follow. The 3 hours passed slowly. Ambassador waited in a small room near the council chamber. He sat in a simple chair, his eyes closed, his breathing steady, paced back and forth nervously. "What if they refuse?" she asked for the 10th time. "What if they decide to fight anyway?" Opened his eyes. "Then we fight, but I do not think it will come to that." "How can you be so calm?" He smiled slightly. "Because I have done everything I can do. The rest is out of my hands. Worrying will not change the outcome." Stopped packing. She looked at the old ambassador with new eyes. "You planned all of this, didn't you? Even before the council made their threat." "Not just me," said. "Generations of humans planned for this day. My grandmother was one of the first to suggest hiding our true strength. My father helped build the secret fleet. I simply finished what they started." Before could respond, a chime sounded. The council was ready. They walked back to the great chamber. This time, the atmosphere was different. The fear and tension had been replaced by something else, anticipation. Everyone knew that history was about to be made. Stood on his platform. He looked older somehow, as if the past 3 hours had aged him decades. The other leaders sat behind him, their faces grim. "Human ambassador," said. His voice lacked its earlier thunder. "The council has reached a decision." Stood on the central platform, exactly where he had stood 3 days ago. This time, he was not alone. Holographic images of commander, admiral, and representatives from every human colony surrounded him. Humanity presented a united front. "We are ready to hear it," said. Took a deep breath. What came next clearly caused him physical pain. The Galactic Council accepts humanity's terms. A wave of sound swept through the chamber. Cheers, gasps, and cries of surprise mixed together into a wall of noise. Species that had been oppressed for were weeping with joy. Others looked stunned, unable to believe what they had heard. Raised his hand for silence. It took several minutes for the chamber to quiet down. However, he continued, I wish to add something to the record. The Council does not accept these terms because we believe they are right. We accept them because we have no choice. Humanity has forced our hand through threats and military power. Nodded slowly. I understand your perspective, Supreme Commander, but I would offer a different view. He stepped forward and addressed the entire chamber. 3 days ago, you told humanity that we must surrender or die. You gave us no choice at all. We responded by showing you that we could not be forced into submission. That is not a threat, it is a statement of fact. He spread his hands. Today, we offer you something better. We offer partnership instead of dominance. We offer cooperation instead of control. We offer a future where all species can grow and thrive, not just the ones who happen to reach space first. His voice grew softer but somehow more powerful. The Council has ruled through fear for 10,000 years. That era is ending, not because humanity destroyed it, but because it was always destined to fall. Fear is a weak foundation. It creates enemies instead of friends. It breeds resentment instead of loyalty. He looked directly at, you can continue to hate us if you wish. You can spend the rest of your life believing that you were forced to accept something unfair, or you can open your eyes and see the opportunity in front of you. His black eyes showed nothing, but some of the other leaders were listening with interest. The humans speak well, one of them muttered. Admiral's hologram stepped forward. Supreme Commander, I have commanded human fleets for 40 years. In that time, I have learned something important. The strongest alliances are built on mutual respect, not domination. If the Council works with humanity instead of against us, we can achieve things that neither of us could do alone. Commander added her voice. My fleet is already standing down. We never wanted war. We only wanted the right to exist on our own terms. Now that we have that right, we are ready to move forward in peace. The chamber was silent again, but it was a different kind of silence. The fear was fading. Something new was taking its place. Representative Bora of the stepped onto the speaking platform. I would like to formally propose that the Council adopt the new charter suggested by humanity, not because we are forced to, but because it is the right thing to do. Other species joined her. One by one, representatives from dozens of worlds voiced their support. Some had been oppressed by the Council for centuries. Others were Council members who had grown tired of the old ways. Together, they formed a majority that could not be ignored. Watched all of this with an unreadable expression. When the voting was complete, he stood alone among his fellow leaders. Very well, he said finally. The new charter will be adopted. The old system will be reformed. Humanity will join the Council as equal members. He paused and looked at one last time. You have won today, human, but remember this, power changes hands quickly in this galaxy. Today you are strong, tomorrow who knows? Smiled. That is exactly why we do not seek power over others, Supreme Commander. We seek partnership, because power is temporary but friendship can last forever. Said nothing more. He turned and left the chamber, followed by his guards. The old era walked out with him. What followed was hours of celebration, negotiation, and planning. The new charter was drafted and signed. Humanity officially joined the Council as a founding member of the reformed government. Species that had been silent for finally had a voice. When it was all over, stood on the observation deck of his ship, looking out at the stars. Found him there, staring at the infinite darkness. You did it, she said softly. You changed everything. Shook his head. I did not do anything alone. Every human who ever lived contributed to this moment. Every generation that refused to give up. Every parent who taught their children to be brave. This victory belongs to all of them." He turned to face her. "And it is not really a victory. It is a beginning. The hard work starts now. We have to prove that our way is better than the old way. We have to build the future we promised. Do you think we can do it?" Looked back at the stars. Somewhere out there, billions of humans were celebrating. They had stood together against impossible odds and won. They had shown the galaxy what humanity was made of. "Yes," he said, "I think we can." Far away, Admiral was giving the same speech to her crew. Captain Minu was embracing his family on Colony 7. Doctor was already planning new research projects with alien scientists. Commander was leading her fleet home. Across the galaxy, a new age was dawning. It would not be perfect. There would be challenges and setbacks and failures. But for the first time in 10,000 years, there was hope. The Galactic Council had tried to coerce humanity into submission. They had expected fear and weakness. Instead, they found courage and strength. And in the end, humanity did not just survive. They changed everything.